I'm going to be addressing Dog Brain 1 and Dog Brain 2 today. This wasn't the upload I planned, but here it is all the same. To Dog Brain number 1 saying I promote animal abuse. 1. Understanding a phenomenon is not the same as endorsing abuse, you fucking idiot. What was explained in the video you obviously didn't even listen to, clearly flew over your head.
Oh please Ninja, that video just straight up defended animal abuses and tried to make him out as sympathetic. It even gave the abusers fake motivations like, it's like the pit child, blah blah blah. Like it was just straight up just a defense of animal abuse. Seems like that flew over your head.
Explaining why some people abuse dogs in certain contexts is not the same as endorsing abuse in general. My position is that no one should own a dog. Meanwhile, in the real world, dog owners are out there actually abusing dogs. 2. Our position is not that dogs should be abused, it's that they shouldn't exist.
Explain why some people abuse dogs in some context? More like making excuses why people abuse dogs, like, dog made a mess, dog went to the bathroom in the house, dog attacked kids and pets. Despite no evidence supporting that those abuses have kids or other pets in a lot of those cases. The dog made a mess and the dog went to the bathroom in the house excuse are really fucking terrible, since many people have had dogs that have done that, yet never ended up abusing them. Also, saying that our position isn't that dogs shouldn't be abused, is that they shouldn't exist, doesn't change that your trash ass video straight up defended animal abuses. Also, that dogs should exist part reminded me that you're foolish.
If you can't understand the difference between those two things, then you are definitely beyond my fine tutelage, just as I suspected. So, it is not for your edification that I'm correcting you, but rather for the sake of others, who will now understand that you're just pulling things out of your ass.
Just pulling things out of your ass? Ninja, you just describe what you do all the time. This being a perfect example. Oh, and for those who are confused of what's going on, this whiny beach decided to make this video on 2 comments from my comic section on my video that calls out his dog abuse apologist video. And he decided to make a whole fucking video on those 2 comments, and this video is born. Also, beyond my fine tutelage, Ninja, you ain't no educator. You're just a narcissistic a-hole that believes he knows everything about dogs, despite barely doing research on them, and mostly make assumptions that are either half-truths at best, or complete BS at worst.
So not only do I not, quote, promote dog abuse, I certainly don't promote animal abuse. In point of fact, dog ownership is far more likely to result in actual animal abuse. Dogs love to harm other animals. They live for it. It is in their DNA to harm other living things. That is why you have complete lunatics out there trying to train a gigantic drooling behemoth of a predator, like a cane corso, in the mad hope of teaching it to go against its instincts and not eat baby rabbits.
Ah yes, he decides to pull the I don't promote animal abuse, they do card. Dogs love harming other animals. They live for it, it's in their DNA, blah blah blah. That is not true because not all dogs attack animals on sight, and some have shown to be actually gentle with other animals, so nice try. Also, people train their dogs not to harm small animals just goes even more against your point.
As I've said 1,000 times, I am only ever talking about dogs. What you mean to lie about is that you want people to think I promote dog abuse, which isn't even the case at any rate.
Like I explained and said before, your garbage, trash-ass video literally defended animal abusers. So no, you promote animal abuse. You just don't have a functional brain to actually realize that.
To dog brain number 2, this does not apply to children, dog brain. Because a dog is not a human's child, and never will be. A child is not a fucking dog. The human species is actually intended to raise its own offspring. That is to say, not that of other foreign species.
Dude, he's not saying that kids are dogs. Your delusions made you think of that. Also, yes, they do apply to kids. Since kids and dogs are both something that people take care of, raise, etc.
I would say your species, but you are obviously just a hopeless dog lunatic whose brain has been hijacked completely. It is evident by the fact that you make such ridiculous statements. We are not wired to be raising dangerous and inherently flawed carnivorous canine approximations. Our psychological makeup is not that of a dog's. Our biology is different. Our brains could not be more different. Conflating these 2 concepts is a sure sign that you cannot distinguish between 2 clearly distinct categories.
We are not wired to take care of dogs is a crappy claim, considering that people have taken care of dogs with success. And other animals for that matter. There are dogs that don't attack other dogs despite being aggressively barked at. And not to mention working dogs. And before you say something like, oh, those dogs exist because of humans, just note that it goes against your humans aren't right to take care of dogs argument, since it showcases people successfully taking care of dogs. Oh, and also, before you say that most dogs aren't working dogs, that doesn't change that working dogs exist. Right or not, that's just a really crappy point. I find it funny how you say they're making ridiculous statements when you're the one actually making them.
Every time one of you nutters brings up human children when dogs are criticised, you have already lost the debate. It's a false equivalence, and a red herring. A distraction, in essence. Not all children are difficult, but all dogs are a different species. Most of them are completely incorrigible. None of them are a good fit for human society. Quite a few are completely untrainable.
You already lost the debate. No, No, you're the one who lost. You lost the moment you thought this comment was about how difficult it is to have a kid, when in reality, this comment is about all your excuses about why dogs get abused, but with kids to show how awful your excuses really are. It isn't a red herring. It isn't a distraction. It's a showcase of how terrible your defense of abusers really are. And yeah, some kids aren't difficult to take care of. Same applies with dogs. It's the breeds that are easier to manage, train, take care of, etc. Also, all dogs are the same species. It's just that they have different breeds. Just wanted to point that out.
But regardless, there's no real basis for someone bringing a dog into their home and subsequently living with it. There's no evolutionary reason for it, and no healthy psychological reason to desire to do so. Wanting to own a dog is largely a manufactured desire, courtesy of the pet industry.
There's no evolutionary reason for it. Nature, you sound like a robot or an alien trying to mimic a human. Also, there being no real basis is just untrue, because people get pets for companionship and enjoy their company, or for health reasons. Oh, and speaking of, no healthy and psychological reason is just blatantly wrong, as there are many studies that show dogs improving a person's health in one way or another. Owning a dog is largely a manufactured desire, courtesy of the pet industry. Ninja, you ain't Neo from the Matrix.
But since you want to bring up children, there's also this to consider. People recognize that, on an individual level, not everyone has to have a child, or a child of their own. Not everyone will. Some people are infertile. Others simply prefer not to be a parent. On the other hand, one can actually raise a child that they didn't produce, as with adoption. So while it can be said that not everyone has to have a child, and that not everyone is cut out to be a good mother or father for that matter, it can never be said that anyone has to have a dog. More importantly, if people can recognize that they don't need to have a child, or do X thing, in order to live a fulfilling life, then they should be able to recognize that they do not need a fucking dog to live a fulfilling life.
You know what's really sad is that I was actually somewhat agreeing with this point, until you sprinkled in that anti-dog slop propaganda at the end. Like, if a person's fulfilling life has a dog in it, then that's their fulfilling life. If you don't need a kid for a fulfilling life, then you don't need a dog point is bad because people have their own personal fulfilling life.
But children and dogs, as variables in human society, frankly, those two things should never be compared in the first place. But when you start to look at them side by side, you clearly see that owning a pet and raising a child are two radically different things. Dogs are highly instinct-driven. They are not as deeply impacted by the negative things that affect humans. For example, you could never emotionally or verbally abuse a dog, but you could certainly do it to a child. Dogs only understand physicality and force. To raise an infant into a healthy, functional adult requires a lot more subtlety.
Those two things should never be compared. Why? Because it shows how god-awful your arguments are? And yes, owning a pet and raising a kid are two different things, but they do have this in common: the responsibility to care for them. Also, this one might shock you, but dogs can get verbally abused. Anyway, goodbye.